Hello, today we're going to be reading Chapter 8, Trouble is Her Name-O. After school, Mom and I went to the parent and teacher interviews on March 7, 2013 to visit my current teachers, which are Mr. Louie, Mr. Turtsicle, Mrs. Cruiser, and Miss Scallawinter. They were all in the cafeteria, but I only remember Mom and I visiting Mr. Louie and Mr. Turtsicle. We went to visit Mr. Louie first. I've had Victoria in the past in the communications course and in woodshop. Victoria is an excellent worker. She's focused and does her work, but in the woodshop, I see she's very capable, but does have this social thing going on with the boys, to the point where today her and another student, I interrupted Mr. Louie before he could finish speaking. We were play fighting, I interrupted him. I wouldn't say play fighting. Roughhousing, maybe? I say to him. Victoria had a chisel port, and she grabbed it, and he pulled away, cutting his own hand. You gotta watch what you're doing. You could cut your fingers off or worse, okay? Mom said to me. He basically told me it's very dangerous and you can't be distracting people or playing around. Other than that, he told Mom she hands in all her assignments. Presently, her marks are good. She's very capable. She just has to watch her social aspect, flirting with the boys. He was only telling the truth on what my behavior was like. I think I may have been blushing at this point. But he was right about my social interactions, and I never even realized at that time that what I was doing was flirting. I just thought of it as socializing with the boys. That's it, nothing more. Like I wasn't in love with any of them. We went to see Mr. Turtsicle after Mr. Louie. He was talking about my writing. Do you copy stuff by any chance, or do you write all that? I write all that. I think she's at grade level. You're creative, and I know you're trying really hard too. You've done your work in half the time of the average person, and I'm very impressed. Then we were talking about my siblings Elizabeth and Louie during the interview too. I don't remember much else about what we talked about. But she's really on top and I hope you get a little more ambitious. Or do you just want to pass and graduate Panthers United, he asked me. Because if you can write like that and express yourself, read and understand things, then you can do whatever you want, you know? You really can, and I know you can. And you don't listen to me anyway. I smiled as soon as he said that comment. That sentence alone made me realize I could do whatever I put my mind to, and if I wanted to be a writer and prove not just to myself that I could be what I wanted to be, but also prove to my school that I could be what they thought I couldn't be. Anyways, keep it up, get your work done. She's been very helpful with her peers. I've asked her if you're done so soon, and it's so good. Can you help other kids? I liked helping my peers if they needed my help. We were also talking about Della, and he asked me if I could help her in class if she's having trouble. He said to us, helping is a good skill to have. After that, we left the cafeteria and we stopped at Principal Gates' office. He and the vice principal, Mrs. Ava Rain, were in that office at the time. I'm not entirely sure why we stopped at his office, but Principal Gates mentioned the lyrics I had written for him and Mr. Turtsicle, and he had them in the filing cabinet in his office. And he was nice to us, surprisingly, maybe because Mom and I and the VP were there. They were smiling at us and stuff. I left with a pair of tickets for either the Hamilton Tiger Cats or Hamilton Bulldog games, and we soon left the school after that. On March 8, 2013, I forgot my laptop at home because I wanted to put some school pictures on it. I went to a restaurant called Tim Leopard's that is located on Barton Street East between Wellington Street and Ferguson Avenue, and bought hot chocolate and coffee. And yes, the coffee outburst is what started this feud between me and that teacher. When I got to the school, I walked upstairs with Mrs. Black and gave Mr. Turtsicle the coffee. He raised his voice at me saying, "Stop wasting your money on me, and if I accept this, do you promise to never buy me any again?" I said yes. This is when the trouble really started and eventually led to my suspension. I never expected him to react that way at all when I bought him the coffee. I only bought him the coffee because he was nice to Mom and me the day before at the parent and teacher interviews. Then I left his classroom to get breakfast and my lunch now. I went upstairs to the second floor to see Mrs. Cruiser and Mrs. Valley. I told them that Mr. Turtsicle yelled at me because I bought him the coffee, just because he was nice the day before. I started crying because of it. When the bell rang, I waited for my art teacher, Miss Winter, to come to class. Mrs. Black walked over to me asking to talk to me, and I shook my head no. Audrey, Janice, and Rosie Bird walked over to me and asked what's wrong. I wouldn't answer them, but Janice gave me a hug. Mrs. Black said to them, "She doesn't want to talk." I went into the class and worked on my gratefulness art. Then the fire alarm went off. As we were going outside, I held the first floor doors open for some of the staff and students. I saw Mrs. Black and Mr. Turtsicle walking down the stairs, too. He turned, looked at me, and said, "Fine, thanks." Mrs. Black turned to see my reaction as well. She noticed that I gave him a dirty look when they both walked past me. I went outside in front of the school looking for my class and saw Mr. Turnsickle, but this time I was ignoring him. He didn't talk to me, but Mrs. Black did. She asked, "Can I have a truce?" I said, "Okay," even though I had no idea what truce meant at that time. She pulled me over to the side. She asked, "Are you mad at me because Mr. Turnsickle gave me half his coffee?" I said, "No, I'm not mad at you. I truly didn't care that he gave her that coffee. I was still mad at Mr. Turnsickle for yelling at me for doing something nice for him. Just goes to show how much people sometimes don't care or appreciate the nice things others do for them." During my second period class, I sat down beside Della in our seats. I didn't work because I left my schoolwork at home. I have left my homework at home quite a few times, especially in his classes. Mrs. Black was being nice, helping Della while reading her news report and telling her to make it more exciting. Then Mr. Turnsickle walked over and had to ruin it. Mrs. Black said to him that he should read Della's news report. So she handed him the paper and he read it. Then he said that the news report was so boring and he had the audacity of making a boring voice while making fun of Della's work. And Della had enough, grabbed the paper from his hand and said, "Go away, you're not helping, you're upsetting me." So he got up from his chair, being all serious and stuff like that, and he said to Della, "I'm trying to help you." And Della replied again, "Well, you're not helping, you were upsetting me." So she put her binder up onto the desk and said to him, "Don't talk to me." Then he said, "That's it, I give up." Then he left the desk, and by then he made Della cry. But she tried not to show it, and that's when Della and I started fighting, which upset us even more. He walked over to Della and slammed my binder down onto the desk. He asked, "Where's your work?" I said, "I left it at home in my newspapers." Mr. Turnsickle said, "Can you at least help Della then?" I said, "Okay, don't touch my binder again." He said, You're being rude because you bought me coffee." I was being rude because I saw another student bring him hot chocolate after he said I couldn't buy him any more coffee. And he was also being rude to Della, and this had nothing to do with Mrs. Black either. Mr. Turnsickle said to Della, "You were no good for my class." He also embarrassed her in front of the entire class. I believe those words alone is what pushed me to my breaking point. Usually I didn't care that he was teasing us or lightly being mean, but something in his voice that day seemed to bother me. No teacher or member of any school should have any right to say those words to any student, who is delayed or not. That is not professional. In my opinion, that is bullying. As class was packing up, I tried to write on the chalkboard, "Loser." But before I could finish writing it, Della took the eraser, hit my pinky finger, erasing the word. I said, "What was that for?" I can't remember everything she said, but I said whatever. Della said, "Fudge off." I walked over to the classroom door, and Mr. Turnsickle was standing there. He said, "Excuse me?" as he was walking past me. The bell rang for lunch, and I bolted out of that room so fast that I took off outside of the school building. I went for a walk to the dollar store, bought a pack of gum, and told the cashier I got into a fight with my best friend. The cashier said, "Hope things get better." I then left the store and headed back to Panthers United. I saw Mrs. Avery, and I told her that I was upset with Mr. Turnsickle. As I was about to tell her why, he walked up behind me and asked, "What did I do?" I didn't answer him, and I turned my back. Then he said, "I'm not wasting my time." He walked away with her and made me fill up with tears. I later saw Wesley Burns and talked to him for a few minutes. Then we both went back into the school and walked past the cafeteria where Della was. I walked to the kitchen, sitting by the woodshop class by the second door on the main floor. Janet Ames walked up to me and said, "Della is crying. Go say sorry." Miss Avery came over to the kitchen door and said I didn't get lunch. Then the automotive teacher, Mr. Crazy Fred, asked, "Victoria, do you want lunch?" I said no. Mr. Slick came out of his other classroom a moment later and asked, "Victoria, did you get lunch?" I said no. Then he said, "Come with me." And I got up off the floor and walked behind him into the cooking room to get a sub for lunch. Mr. Slick and I went into the kitchen. I saw Louie and his friend Oscar Andrews and Miss Grace sitting together eating lunch. Miss Grace then made me a veggie sub. Louie asked, "What is wrong?" I started crying and said to him, I had gotten into an argument with Mr. Turnsickle and got into a fight with Della. They probably thought that it was a dumb thing to cry over, which it was. I don't know if Mr. Slick knows how much I appreciate the fact that he would save me lunch every day at school, even if I didn't want lunch or wasn't hungry. Thank you for doing that for me, Mr. Slick, even though you didn't have to do that at all. Especially for taking the time out of your lunch hour to make sure I ate and didn't go to class with an empty stomach. By the time third period came, I didn't make brownies. I sat near the unused computers that were sitting on the cabinets thinking with my head down. Mr. Slick asked me at the beginning of his third period baking class what is wrong. I told him I bought a coffee for Mr. Turdsicle and he was being rude about it. Mr. Slick probably thought that was dumb too. Mr. Turdsicle should have just taken the coffee and not argued with me about it. I am a sympathetic and sensitive person if you didn't already know that. When fourth period came, I went upstairs to the third floor and heard Della talking about something. But I didn't hear much. Della, Willow Parsons, the librarian, Mrs. Jane, and Mr. Turdsicle were all talking. As soon as I heard Della coming towards the third floor stairwell, I bolted and took off to the second floor. I went back into the woodshop class on the main floor, and the bell rang to go home. I met up with Della in the girls' bathroom. Della and I talked and apologized to one another. Della said I wanted to take my anger out on Mr. Turdsicle, but instead I took it out on you. Della and I went upstairs to the library and heard Mr. Turdsicle and Mrs. Jane arguing about Della. Another library teacher, Mr. Mike, was in the room with them too. Mr. Turdsicle stormed out of the library to his classroom, grabbing his bag. He then slammed his classroom door and bolted down the stairs. I went to go after him to apologize, but then Mr. Mike said, "Bye, Victoria." I said, "Bye," as I walked out of the library. Della followed me to the third floor stairwell. I yelled down and called his name. "Turdsicle," he said. "Not now, Victoria," I said, please, in a small, soft voice. I don't know why I even bothered to try to run after him anyway. I said to Della, "Let's get out of this dump." Della and I left the school and started walking to our bus stops. I gave Della a hug, and she asked, "Are you sure you don't want me to hang out with you until your bus comes?" I said no. Then we went our separate ways. Della went to her usual bus stop, and I eventually just walked home. I wasn't in the mood to wait for the Cannon bus. I saw Elizabeth a moment later and walked over to her. I told her, "This kid has a lot on her mind. She's not taking the bus." Elizabeth took my backpack home. Miss Kelly Suzanne was at the bus stop waiting for the bus with her. I began walking home listening to music and thinking about what happened that day. I soon walked by Tim Leopard's on Cannon Street East. Darren and Lou were there. I didn't hear them call my name. I didn't notice them there at all until Darren ran up to me while Louie was walking. We soon arrived home. Louie introduced Darren to our parents. Then all three of us, including Bethany and Ava, went to the Skateboard Adventurers Champney Park. Darren said he had the biggest heart for me. He said he wanted to be a part of my life until he's gone, crosses the river to go to heaven. The relationship lasted about 1.5 years, but we broke up twice. And that is the end of chapter 8. I would love to hear your thoughts on this chapter. Was it my fault, Della's fault, or Mr. Turdsicle's fault that this fight started? Honestly, I think it's my fault. I mean, he was being nice to me and my mom the day before for parent and teacher interviews, and I thought that getting him a coffee, would be okay. Like, I've only ever given him, I think I've bought him a few coffees that year, but I only did it out of the kindness of my heart. But he seemed to think different. But yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on this chapter, and please subscribe if you haven't already, and send me, write a comment down below of the video when you subscribe, and I'll subscribe to your channel, because I can't see who my subscribers are for some crazy reason. I hope you enjoyed this chapter, and take care. Bye.